I recently moved westward to Arizona from the boring state of Oklahoma. I am a devout Christian, and never once before this had I believed there were entities in existence that we could not hunt down with our modern advancements. You'd figure that if we wanted to find something, we would, and most of all, we could. It was the 23rd of December, 2018. I was in Payson, Arizona, a bit north of Phoenix. My friends and I, in our Christmas spirit, decided to head out north of town, about 5 or 6 miles or so, into the forest of a secluded trail. It was cold that night. Some of my friends shivered and displayed obvious signs of unpreparedness. I was layered fairly well, and yet the winds and frigid cold punctured through my layers and onto me. We wanted to make a bonfire, warm up, enjoy ourselves, and have a few drinks. I knew as soon as I got into the car to head that way something was off. I felt sick, uneasy, and something in my gut told me to just stay home, but I could not put my finger on just what, and ignored my ever so looming feelings of anxiety. We picked up friends and headed to the trail. I'm a huge nature lover, and always felt safe in the confines of the forest. I felt in control, at ease, but not tonight. It may sound cliche, but I'll be damned if it didn't feel like someone or something was watching me when we finally got there. And when I had gotten far enough down the trail that turning back would be a hasty endeavor, it finally hit me why it felt so eerie. The same year, during the weeks prior to Thanksgiving, I was here before. It's not a spot we usually go to, therefore I was not familiar with it, nor were my friends. We were coming out for the same reason we were in December, for a few drinks around a bonfire. It was late. I, however, hadn't had any spirits that night. It was my job to gather firewood. I didn't mind. My chance to survey and explore the area around us wouldn't be bad. Before I even left our area, things took a turn for the strange. I was at the edge of the light being cast from the small bonfire I was to gather more fuel for. In the faint glow of the far trees, I caught a glimpse of something dart behind the tall pine. I looked back to my friends and asked if it was out of the ordinary for people to be hanging around the spot. My query was only met with silence from them as they drank on. I took a few more steps beyond the comfort of the blaze, keeping my eyes affixed on the tall, shadowy figure fixated behind the tall trees. I could faintly make out that it had moved in a slight bobbing motion, like a buoy upon the tide. My immediate thoughts drew blank as to why someone would be out here doing this. Maybe I was seeing things, or it was a prank of some sort. I opened my mouth to call out, or even crack a joke, but was mortified when I realized I could not speak. Something inside of me prevented me of making any noise. My heart raced. As it swiftly came, it shot off into the distance like a bullet. Being startled so badly, I fell back onto the ground and kicked myself back like a spooked animal, scratching and cutting my hands as I do so. My friend saw me and laughed, thinking I was drunk. I managed to stammer out a line to what I saw, but was only met with a few blank stares and laughs, making me sound stupid. For the rest of the night, I never dared step away from the beams of the bonfire. As I walked down the trail that frigid December evening, I remember what I had seen and felt on that cold November night, and my stomach dropped. My friends were slurring out Christmas carols and other drunk epiphanies. I know they wouldn't listen to me even if I spoke out, so I ignored the guttural feeling, prayed for the best, and walked on. I hadn't been drinking much this night either. I don't enjoy alcohol as much as my friends do, and often I was the one responsible for herding them home when the night was over. However, to calm my tense nerves, I had a drink or two of some Jaeger that we had chilled in the ice chest. It was Christmas after all. It worked. We were all having a good time, enjoying our festive feelings and generally savoring the crisp forest atmosphere. Soon nature called, and forgetting my prior ordeal, I began to walk away from the fire to relieve myself. I walked a fair 300 or so feet away towards a big rock resting behind some fallen trees. Not wanting to be seen doing my business, I was not even far enough away from the fire to not be able to hear my friends' voices echoing through the woodlands. From behind me, my friend Corbin, who had come along, called out my name. I'll admit I was tipsy, but nowhere near not enough to differentiate reality from a drunken stupor. I remember calling out to him, telling him to give me a moment to finish. I zipped up and turned to walk around the rock to where I heard him wander to. I don't know what it was, but sure as all heaven above and hell below was not Corbin. It took me a minute for my woozy mind to put this together and stop walking towards it. I am thankful I did. This thing stood tall, at least 6 to 7 feet. Its eyes burned like our fire. It moved from a dog-like four-limb position to standing tall. The light from the moon on this cold night radiated the body, showing its dark, slender shape with an inhuman sheen. I began to sob violently. My mind ran in panicked circles. Seconds felt like lifetimes as my world came to a halt. As I stared upon the clawed feet of the beast that was right in front of me and that I was sure that was going to take my life from me right there, I did the only thing I could think to do. I dropped to my knees and began to pray. This monster, to my petrified brain, had to have been the devil himself. To imagine him anything worse than that would be impossible. It did not like my pleas to God, an unholy shriek of what I can only think to describe as someone screaming loudly with lungs full of water, rang out. I screamed in terror, and with all the strength I could muster, I lunged backwards across the forest floor, running as fast as my legs could take me. I fell a few times, I think, in sheer panic. I just couldn't manage to get my body to work properly, knowing that that thing was near. When I returned, in a panicked craze to the fire, covered in sweat, dirt, and tears, I managed to wheeze out what happened somewhat through my sobs of fear. I could tell they doubted whether or not what I was desperately stammering out was real or not. I think I was so horrified in that moment that I had a small seizure, because everything else is a blur. I remember going to the truck and leaving. I remember waking up the next day receiving a multitude of texts saying I was either stupid or crazy, or texts from worried friends asking if I was okay. And I also remember the last thing I saw before I made my frenzied flee. When it smiled back at me through the forest and skittered off into the darkness a few days after Christmas, I was able to get in touch with a native elder here in town. I was so scared mentioning the event because I was horrified of being mocked or him not believing in me. To a twist of my thinking, I told him very vividly what I had encountered. He wholeheartedly believed and told me it was a Skinwalker. He then blessed me thoroughly and told me to leave that stretch of land alone and to never venture out there again. Next time I might not be so lucky. He didn't have to tell me twice. I know I sound crazy. If I were you, I wouldn't believe me either, but you don't have to. All you have to know is, for the love of God, above and all things holy, never forget that we are not alone on this earth. Sometimes during the night, whenever I look out my window, I catch sight of eyes in the trees looking back at me. In July 2013, I was on a summer camping trip that included a service portion of the Navajo reservation. Where we were staying was this really remote patch of land that could only be accessed by this really sketchy piece of road and had no electricity. My group had the luxury of either camping in a tent or under a tarp, and of course I got stuck under the fucking tarp, sleeping on the outside of the group. One night there was a really bad storm, and we were invited to sleep in the Hogan, a traditional Navajo house with the mother and son we were staying with. Of course, on the dark and stormy night, the mother decides to tell us a story of her Skinwalker, of which there were many. I cannot remember all of them, as it was a few months ago, but here is what I know. The story of the origin of the Skinwalkers that she told was that long ago, Navajo wore pelts, like in the movies, to hunt animals. The pelts of the entire get-up, face, paint, etc., gave people the power to transform into an animal-like state. As with all types of powers, some of it used for good, some of them used it for evil, so Skinwalkers were born. She said that the Skinwalkers look like big wolves or dogs in the animal state, and sound like horses running. She said something about how they cannot be shot just normally because the bullets will deflect. She also said that a few have been arrested by Navajo police. Because of Skinwalkers, most Navajo do not drive at night. Skinwalkers can also use your biological matter, like spit on the ground or hair from a brush, to cast bad magic on you. This is also a reason why Navajo people keep their Navajo names a secret. Now for the stories. The first one I remember was when she was a child. One night she was thirsty, so she got up to get some water. She went to the kitchen to get a glass of water, and through the window she saw red eyes, and she froze. She does not remember anymore. In the morning she wakes up and walks to the kitchen and sees her glass of water sitting on the counter. She tells her mother, and they go outside to see fresh dirt that has been dug up. And her mother confirms it is a Skinwalker. When she was older, she joined the U.S. Navy. She was stationed in Spain when a man came up to her asking if she was Navajo from the reservation. Apparently he was too, but she did not know this man. He kept pestering and pestering her, but she knew something was up when he didn't recognize the scent of burning cedar wood. Something very familiar to most Navajo people. They throw cedar chips on fires. It smells awesome. She thinks it might have been some sort of Skinwalker. As an adult, she works as an art teacher in schools. One day, a student of hers came up to her with a concern. She was dating a boy she really liked, but her grandmother, a Skinwalker, did not like him, and she was afraid of what she could do. Later, she showed up pregnant. I think I remember something about the grandmother killing the fetus. Back when she was younger, her sister also had an encounter. One night, she left her bedroom window open. Suddenly, she felt frozen while in bed. She then felt someone breathing down the back of her neck. She could not do anything because the Skinwalker had frozen her in place. The son also had a story. He was camping with his friend where we are camping out in the yard. It was the middle of the night when he decided to go use the shit house. As he was in or near the shit house, a pack of Skinwalkers decided to drop in. He remembers them making noises on the shit house door. Another time, a pack of Skinwalkers decided to go right on through the property while a group, such as my own, was camping out there. Luckily, I didn't see anything, but I was sure scared as hell for the rest of my time there. As if rattlesnakes and black widows weren't scary enough. There were definitely more stories that I don't remember, but hopefully you'll find some of these interesting.
Please don't kill me. I have a lot to live for. I have a wife and kids.
If you are new, go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe to my channel, as it really helps me out. And if you are already subscribed, welcome back and thank you for subscribing.